Moondance. Well, when I still lived at home, I guess it was 1975, I decided to do a walkabout and get out of town. So I took my Camp Trails pack and I had my flute, a little bit of clothes, and I went out to Horseshoe Bay and got on the ferry. And to set all this up, I'd studied flute for many, many years with Arvid Grants, who was my teacher, one of the great teachers I had in my lifetime. So lucky to have him. He was a philosopher, a flautist. He taught me to love J.S. Bach. He also told me not to play my flute with rock bands. And I did listen to him. He said, first off, because the guitars are always out of tune, which is true. And he said, secondly, just with all that noise, the flute does not belong there. But I did learn one tune, not really a rock tune, Moondance by Van Morrison. I thought it was a pretty cool tune. There's some nice flute work in it. And I thought I could use it to meet women. So here I am on the boat. I go up to the top deck and I see this pretty hippie girl. And she had a bright smile. She freckly, and she seemed like a really nice lady. So I said, "Oh, hey, do you mind? Will you watch my pack? I'm going to go outside for a minute." She said, "Sure." So I went outside and got my flute and I started playing Moondance. She came out like a minute later with both the packs, put them down, and she'd studied modern dance. So she started, doing her hippie dancing. Meanwhile, I'm playing Moondance. We probably did a 15, 20-minute version, and a whole crowd formed and applauded us. And so I met her. Her name was Jennifer, and I said, "What are you doing? Where are you going?" And she says, "I'm going on the West Coast Trail." I said, "Well, can I go with you?" And she said, "Well, sure." So we hitchhiked down the island, and we went on the West Coast Trail. I was 18 and she was 24, so I'd gone out with girls, but never a woman, and she was a woman. And I remember going on the West Coast Trail, and I'd be playing my flute, and she'd be dancing on these some of the the most beautiful place in the world, really, the West Coast Trail at that time. So we tripped down the trail a few days. We fell in love, but she was a free spirit. She was a hippie, so. 2 days, 3 or 4 days in, she started like dancing down the trail, and I couldn't stand it. So, not too bright at the time. I said, "Well, I got to go. We'll see you later." So I cruised down. I left her there because she was walking too slow. That's what happens when you're 18. So I wandered up island, and I fished in some streams. I ended up on this logging road, this ugly logging road, and I got picked up by a guy named Robert Lee Ford. And of course, there was 5 guys in this terrible car, and we were going to Tassus because they all worked in the sawmill. Meanwhile, he had one of those hookahs with like 5 hoses, and we were all smoking out of it. Anyway, we go to Tassus. I get a job in the sawmill. Now, I found out later he had to go back to jail on the weekends because he was already in trouble. It turned out that this guy did a helicopter escape from a prison out in, I think it was Agassiz. Robert Lee Ford, he got picked up on an island in Harrison Lake. So, that was my experience there. Anyway, I get back to Vancouver, and I call up Jennifer. She was my first love, and I would go to this hippie house where she lived at 29th and Dunbar, and there was 4 hippie women. There was Francine from Montreal, there was Marion, there was Donna, and there was Jennifer. So I'd show up late at night. Now, this time, I young, handsome guy, I had red hair that went right down just about to my waist. And so I'd show up at night and I'd play my flute for them or tell them stories, and they would sit in their hippie nightgowns on the steps and listen to me, right? Anyway, Jennifer and I were together for a few years, and we eventually went our separate ways. I married another woman, and in Victoria, and my first wife, I didn't last long with her. Anyway, my mom, Donna, was my wedding photographer, and my mom said to her, "I wish it was you he was marrying and not that woman." And Donna was like, "What?" She was shocked. Anyway, little do you know. That marriage didn't last, and then Donna and I started seeing each other a little bit when my son was really young. Our first date was 1991, ZZ Top and Colin James at the Coliseum, and Dawn and I are still together. I married her in 1994. We raised our son and our stepdaughter and 3 grandchildren, and we've had a great life together. Years after that, when Eddie was playing Little League at Dunbar, I went up to the house, and there was a sign that said, "Beware of Dave." I've never seen it before or since, but by that time it was too late. I never played Moondance again. Once was enough.